All right, we ready? Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you, getting out. We're excited that everybody's out and about. I'm sure some of you are excited to be out and about. And I was laughing, telling somebody yesterday that we could tell that things were back into getting closer to normal. Kim, my wife, and I are involved in a lot of different things with all the boards that she sits on and the philanthropy that she does in Dallas. And this week we managed to have something for basically 5 nights in a row. And so we were laughing about all the different things and that are, last night was what they call All About the Hall, and was for the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville. They had a big fundraiser here in Dallas. We went to that, and so people are finding ways to do things, and we're doing the same. This morning, we've got all of you here. We also have a sizable group of people on Zoom this morning, and so we're excited to begin to start the Aspire series back up. We're looking for great speakers like we have today, and so thank you so much for taking the time to come and attend. We want to again mention you. We're open, running. Our clients, we're finding there's a lot of chances to do planning, a lot of opportunities to spend advising and helping people. For those of you who hadn't heard, we're writing multi-trillion-dollar checks out of Washington, which also concentrates that's going to come back out of your pocketbook in the form of something known as federal tax dollars. Okay, rates are going to go up just like the heat does in Dallas. Okay, I can promise you that they're going up. So there's lots of planning, there's lots of opportunities, lots of things to be thinking about out there. We'd love to be doing that, with you, with your clients, with your friends. So please think of us when that happens. There are a couple different housekeeping things. For those of you who have CPE that you'd like to get credit for, we have the evaluation forms and stuff for you to do. If you don't get that, you can email Andrea Gardner at chapmanhex.com, and it's actually agardner@chapmanhex.com, and she'll make sure that get you the form, get you the credit if you don't get that done today. We also have a speaker evaluation form for you to give us just feedback. Also on new topics, things you want to hear about. We're already out interviewing and talking to different people about other things that we think that you would be interested in and aspire to know something about. So we appreciate, again, your input, and we'd like your ideas and people that we ought to be talking to. Videos also are available for the different prior Aspire events. They're on our website. You'll click, it'll take you over to our YouTube channel, and will allow you to look at them. We've broken them down into segments so that you don't have to watch the whole thing. You can see pieces of it that you get to the area of the topic that you want to hear about. So please feel free to take advantage of those and look at them. At the end of the presentation today, we'll have some time for questions. If you're joining us on Zoom, please use the Q&A chat feature and send us questions, and we'll try and get to everything that we can before we end the meeting. We try and stop it right at 9 o'clock, just so that people get on about their day and we don't intrude anymore on your schedule and stuff. It's also my pleasure this morning to introduce Susan to you, our speaker. Susan Foster is a mom, most important, an author, a speaker, a coach, an advocate, a graduate of the University of Texas School of Journalism, and she wears a hero's costume every day and flies and does, no, I'm just, but she does all kinds of special miracles and wonders. Her first book was entitled Charming Impossibles, How Ordinary Angels Help Free the Hopeless Stuck. I probably need to read that book. Her second book, Inside the Locked Box, the Marshall Racing Project 33 story, gives voice to her late son, John Marshall Foster, who committed suicide at 21 years of age following a miraculous recovery from a harrowing motorcycle accident. One of the things that caught my attention with Susan was the whole idea of this mental health issue. And while these issues are affecting a lot of people with COVID, with just the ongoing-ons in life, with all the chaos and everything that hits us every day, it's really affecting a lot of our younger people, youth, and really even at younger and younger ages. Each year we find that there's more and more cases of this. There's more and more adults that are continuing to suffer too. And basically, a lot of times people don't want to talk about it. There's a stigma about mental health. having had a family member who struggled all her life with mental health, who's in and out of institutions. I understand the problems, the issues in that. So I thought this was a perfect topic coming out of COVID to put up on the table. We've always believed, and we have a joke around the firm, don't walk around the elephant or the moose, throw the bloody moose up on the conference room table and let's talk about it, okay? And you can't step around it. And I think this is one of those topics. So we're delighted to have her here today, sharing her story and helping us break through the hopelessness and some of the different things that go with that. So thank you so much. Delighted to have you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Greg. I really appreciate this opportunity. And Joe Gordian, thank you for the connecting that you do. And so this is the first I've had a chance to talk on this because my book just isn't even out yet. And it's the Marshall Racing Project story. It'll be available next month on Amazon, but I do have some here. So I'm really excited about it. And I appreciate the desire for us to speak on stigma because it is an issue. And what is it? What is stigma anyway? Well, stigma is, and how do you respond to stigma? I want you to really think about it for a minute, about yourself, because we're going to talk about you today too. Because stigma is a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance. And stigma can come in all kinds of shapes and forms, not just human, not just suicide. It involves judgment of others and shame. I speak on surviving domestic abuse and suicide. I know, I'm really fun. But you know what? When you break it down, it's really just about getting on the other side of life challenges. And we all have life challenges. All of us do. And so one of my greatest challenges was losing my 21-year-old son to suicide. Meet Marshall Foster. He was born March 3rd, 96. He was the youngest of 4 children. Before my oldest was 5, I had 4. So I was just like a little pack of puppies. And by the time Marshall was 20 years old, he was saying to me, Mom, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't belong here. And I would say, no, we're going to get you help. We're going to get you help. And he would try everything I asked him to do. We would go to family counseling. We tried everything until I said, you need professional help. And then he said, no, Mom, I won't do that. I don't want the stigma. It'll affect my career. It'll affect me getting a job. And I could not convince him otherwise. He was 21 years old. And so I called hotlines and organizations and foundations and hospitals, and no one would talk to me because he was an adult and he had to make the phone call. And I couldn't get him to make the phone call. And Marshall, because he had a foundation of abuse, had major trust issues. He truly trusted only one that I know of, and that would be me. And for me to trick him into getting some kind of help wouldn't have worked for us. So how did he get so hopeless? And why should you even care? Well, suicide is the second leading cause of death for individuals ages 15 to 34 in the United States, as well as in Texas. 1 in 10 children who dies by suicide in North Texas is under the age of 13. Adult suicide is also on the rise. So where do we begin when we have a generation that's where the parents and the adults are as in much crisis as the children? And what is the cause for this? And to whom do we turn? I think we might look at what the flight attendants say when they say, you know, the oxygen mask comes off and they say, put the mask on you first before you can help somebody else. And so we really need to take a look at ourselves before we can even, as adults, before we can even consider how do we help our children. My hope in sharing our story with you today is to eradicate stigma, but not only mental health. It's just to eradicate stigma for that spiral downward that we all face. It's part of our journey. And to inspire hope that breakthrough is always imminent when you feel the most hopeless. There's always hope, and breakthrough is imminent. We all have that story that we don't want to tell. And I want you to think about yours as I share with you Marshall's and my story. It may be a disappointment, a layoff, maybe you got fired, abortion, divorce, whatever it is. Everybody has that. It might have been something in your childhood. And the thing about a traumatic event that happens in our life is that we as human beings wrap a story around it. And the truth is, we really don't know. That story isn't true because we really don't know all the facts. So I want you to go back to that event, and I want you to separate the story that you told yourself. And I just want you to look at the situation, and it happened, period. And the only option we really have is to accept it. But we do have choices in how we choose to respond to it. And so then I want to ask you, how did you respond to it? Because the way you responded to it, you'll probably find a cycle of this in your life. And it may be that you, did you blame yourself? Did you blame somebody else? Did you erupt? Did you just retreat in silence? Did you become the martyr? Did you do like me? And peace at all costs, I'll take the blame, just let's all be happy. However we responded, that was our coping mechanism. And most of us as adults are walking around listening to our 8, 10, 20-year-old self telling us how we're supposed to respond to things. So I want to take a minute and just say, maybe you need to rethink how you respond, first of all. There are other ways. Marshall's story starts with mine, and I'll fill you in a little background. How did this happen to me? How did I end up in abuse? I had charming parents, rarely heard a voice raised in my family, and life was so good. I really kind of had a Pollyanna view toward life. And so I call abusers charming impossibles because charm is their lure, and it is a phony facade. And it's all you see in the beginning until they lure you in and hook you, and then impossible to please is their method of control and manipulation. Were there signs? Yes, there were signs. When we were young and we were still dating, we were jogging together, and apparently I wasn't running fast enough. He just shoves me, and I fall down, I skin my knee, and I get up. I'm like, what the heck? What are you doing? He said, I'm sorry, I don't know. And I said this, I went back to my regular response, the peace at all costs, and I said, it's okay. And I walked right into my cycle of abuse. We married shortly after, and the abuse escalated. Our choices always affect others. Our choices never only affect us, and my choices affected my children. And this is where Marshall comes in. So, of course, there were deeper layers and levels of abuse, but to bring home the point of what happened with Marshall, I'm going to share this mild situation. For the kids, it was something like this. Hey, kids, do you want a big screen TV? Yeah. Okay, then go do this work, and I'll get you a big screen TV. Then he'll come home a couple days later with a stray dog he found off the side of the road. Hey, kids, you want this puppy? Look at this puppy. And everybody's all around the puppy. Yes. Do you want the big screen TV or the puppy? Well, we want both. You're spoiled. You're ungrateful. You know, and he would tear down at who they were. It was, Dad, I made straight A's. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's good. But you know what? If you graduate a semester early, let me tell you what I'll do then. And then he feeds back their dream and he puts it out of reach. They move the goalposts and they change the rules. Well, Marshall, at the age of 12, began to see this. And a truth teller and a truth seeker is very dangerous when you're dealing with a narcissist, because you don't want to confront a narcissist with their truth. It's like lighting a bomb. And Marshall came out of his room at 12 and he said, I see what he does. And I'm gonna confront him. And I said, oh no, Marshall, don't do that. Oh, please don't do that. You're not ready for that. Yes, you're right. And anyway, there was no stopping that little boy. He walked down those stairs and he went to that home office and he confronted his dad. His sister stood outside the window just in support, in fear for him. He stood for 2 hours while he was berated and torn down by his dad. And Marshall was never the same after that. Then we began getting phone calls from the principal, and there was trouble. There was trouble at school. And my point is that nearly half of child suicides has abuse at the bottom foundation of it. And Marshall was then made an example of, because with a narcissist, they will make an example out of the minion that steps out of line. And Marshall was told he was not to sleep in the house, that he had to sleep outside in a sleeping bag with the dogs. And he had to do this for a week. And I said to Marshall, Marshall, I'd lay there with him and I said, this is abuse. Are you ready to leave? I have learned that maybe a 13 to 14-year-old might have a voice in the court system. That's not necessarily true, but this is what I had heard. And he was a year away from that. I said, are you ready to leave? Because I'm not leaving one of you behind. And he said, I'm 75% ready. I said, well, let me know when you're 100. April 1st, 2010, we loaded up a U-Haul, 3 teenagers. Imagine this, dumping drawers into sheets and towels and bundling them up and throwing them in a U-Haul, disassembling their beds and dragging everything out and piling it in like blocks. And we moved 4 hours north to the upstairs of my brother's home. My kids left their Christian school, their youth group, their friends, their family, everything, to what was hometown to me, but a strange place to them. I had not worked in 21 years, and I didn't know how we were going to make it. And I was going to the grocery store having to decide between cereal and milk or bread and peanut butter and jelly. I didn't know how we were going to make it. And I would line my kids up and I would say, you know what, everybody line up. Here's the ceiling, here's the floor, here are the walls. I don't know how we're going to make it, but when we do get on the other side of this, I just want you to know that it's God. But then I was beginning to wonder, how did I allow this to happen to myself? And how did I allow this to happen to my children? And I just became to beat myself down, and I felt that shame and unworthiness. And I was going anywhere. I'd go to networking things. I'd be at a meeting like this, and I'd be telling everybody what happened to me and how did this happen to me and why. And I want to share this with you because I knew that I was speaking primarily to a group of men. And this is something that I think is really important for you all to know. As I shared this story with men, I started hearing this back. How did it happen to you? How did it happen to me? And I said, how did it happen to you? There were 3 key men that helped me come to a place of forgiveness. And it was an international attorney who worked for a billionaire. It was a top surgeon in his field, and it was a former Marine who was then a CEO. And he said, you know what? I had no way of protecting myself when she came at me with a broken bottle or scissors. I started telling their stories. Instead of telling mine, I was going everywhere telling their stories, and people were whispering in my ear, it happened to me too, it happened to me too, I've never told anyone. And I want to bring to your attention that, during COVID, not only is suicide up, but so is domestic abuse, and it's happening to men as well. It was through those men that I began to forgive myself. And I want to drive home the point that these things are happening in your social circle. They're happening in your place of worship. This is an issue that's happening. There were so many people that were really very, very close to me that had no idea what I was going through. Stigma is basically shame. And the difference between shame and guilt is guilt says, I did a bad thing. Shame says, I'm a bad person. Secrecy, silence, and judgment are required in order for shame to exist. But shame rejects approval of others. You can't accept the acceptance of others when you're down on yourself, and you can't accept yourself. And this is why I encourage people to tell their story. I have chosen to tell my story. It's empowering to tell that story that you never want to tell, because you get to write the ending, but you also impact people. What doesn't kill you makes you strong, they say. Well, that is true if you allow it. Eventually, we did pull through, my kids and I. And Marshall was working, and he was doing really well. The kids were all doing well. When suddenly he began to spiral downwardly again. Most who suffer childhood abuse spend their whole adulthood trying to get over it. And Marshall decided to pursue his dream. he was at his 20th birthday. My son comes up with his motorcycle. It was a Kawasaki Ninja crotch rocket, crazy motorcycle. It was beautiful, but he paid cash for it. He had his license, he had his insurance, and he surprised us for his birthday. And I began thinking, is this how he's going to take his life? But he called me shortly after that. He said, Mom, things are really looking up. I'm making the kind of friends I've been wanting to make. And I just want you to know that I've never felt so good. I really feel good. I did it. And there's something about the dream. There's a series of events that happens. We go through what I call the dream cycle. And it is, you have a dream, you have the crash of the dream, and you have the rebirth of a dream. And I'll get more into that in a minute. Well, shortly after that wonderful phone call, it was a month almost to the date of his birthday. I get another one. Mom, I'm okay, but I just had an accident on my motorcycle and I'm at the hospital. I'm about to go into surgery. Marshall, is there a nurse around? Ma'am, is this a matter of life and death? Marshall, do you have any final words for your mother? Mom, I love you and I appreciate you. Click. I was in Colorado. I was up at Beaver Creek and he was at Fort Worth at John Peter Smith Hospital at the Trauma 1 unit. What I learned later was he was miraculously spared. He was minutes from passing. He had internal bleeding and all kinds of other injuries. But during that time, at that period of the crash of his dream, he met his ordinary angel. His ordinary angel's name was Ever Gomez, and he was the responding nurse who took care of him in ICU. Ever had the same motorcycle Marshall had. And Ever had a group of men who were much older than him that wanted to mentor him, and that he was trying to get that, because Marshall had such a long stay, they developed a friendship. And Ever was a gift to Marshall. And it was everything really Marshall had ever wanted. But Marshall couldn't see it. Daring to dream is really scary because you're at emotional risk, because what if you chase after your dream and you, in your own mind, you fail at your dream? Marshall had failed. His hope was down and he didn't see any way out because he didn't have the money to refurbish this motorcycle. The crash is part of our process. And the purpose of our lives is usually found in our crash. Look at me. I'm talking to you about my 2 crashes. Your crash will have more purpose and encourage more people than your successes ever will. Well, too often we look at it as a failure, and that's what Marshall did. We need to learn to expect that. We need to learn to expect the downward spiral and look and anticipate the breakthrough, because there is a coming breakthrough. During the season of a death of his dream, Marshall was then asked to speak to, let's see how to do this. He was asked to speak to the state legislature on behalf of the Trauma 1 units of Texas, because he was such a miracle story. He was invited. He was the youngest, and he was the only non-medical person there. And that young man went and spoke on behalf and helped secure funding for the Texas Trauma 1 units. And there was purpose revealed. But again, when you're suffering from shame, you can't see it. I remember having shared with Marshall one time. Here's Marshall speaking at the state legislature. I showed him this 90-degree angle and I said, here's where you are, here's where you're going to be. It's never a straight line. It looks like this. And he said, no, and he grabbed the pen. He goes, it's going to look like this for me. And I said, well, good luck with that. You know, you need to set healthier expectations for yourself. So where are these people getting these, where are these kids getting these incredibly high expectations for themselves? You know, we keep hearing about social media. And one of the things that is happening is our kids are actually seeing only the high points of all of their friends. And it's affecting them. And they now have technology where they can actually examine the brain and they can see the effects of the brain, and they see the effects of social media. It changes our brain. And video games also, they've done research where they'll take a kid off of a video game and put him out in nature for a period of time, and the brain changes. We are learning that we can impact our brain by our behavior and what we do. And so What do we do when we fall or we struggle? We have a responsibility to practice mental fitness, is what I call it. You know, even if we're under the care of a doctor and we're on medication, we still have to eat healthy and exercise. We just have to be responsible. But there's things we need to do to be responsible for us mentally. And these are things that we can help our children with. I started practicing gratefulness. For me, that was what helped me get through. There were times where I was absolutely hopeless. I saw no way out. And the only thing I could be thankful for was the lesson of weeds. You know, we poison them, we try to destroy them, we mow them, we stomp them out. They just keep growing. And then another one was the fly. You know, the fly kept hitting me. But that fly's probably been swatted by horsetails and newspapers. And, you know, it's still going. And sometimes it's just staying in the moment. There were times where I thought if I was looking 2 minutes ahead, I was going to go into panic. But if I stay in the moment right now, right where I am, I know my kids are fed, they have a roof over their head, they're clothed, we're okay right now. Right now, we're okay. And sometimes that's your method. That's what we got to do. But we have to hold on and we have to trust and we have to believe we're going to make it to the breakthrough. It's coming. Marshall was discharged from the hospital and he started struggling over simple tasks, trying to go back to work. He said, I can't remember. And he was just stressed. And looking back, I think, you know, he probably had a brain injury, a concussion, PTSD. But he really started spiraling down at that point. And he was, I'm done, Mom. I need you to be okay with this. One day I was trying to just do something for myself. So I went to a women's inaugural event. And there was one man. And he had created a logo. And I said, I want to talk to this man. So I talked to him and he said, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I recently did some research. And I found out how much it took to kill a man. I took enough to kill 4. I'm a miracle. I shouldn't be standing here. And I said, I'll tell you why you're telling me that. You're telling me that because my son is home suicidal. Will you please go talk to him? And he goes, tonight, it's after 9 o'clock. Now, this is the power of telling a story. You want me to go right now? And I said, yes. I'll give you the gate code to the apartment. Go knock on his door. I don't know if he'll let you in. 2 hours later, he calls me back. And he said, he's a wonderful young man. You know, he's just trying to figure things out. He doesn't know what he believes in God. He said, you don't know if you believe in God. He goes, son, you're a miracle. You shouldn't be here. I'm a miracle. I shouldn't be here. You just opened the door to a strange black man and we're sitting here on your couch talking about God. He said, God sent me. What more do you need? Well, the next time I saw Barry was at Marshall's viewing. Barry was the last person to see Marshall. And at Marshall's viewing, Barry walked in and he said, I failed. And I said, oh, no, you didn't fail. I said, you want to know what? You were so right when you told Marshall that God sent you to him. And he did. But God also sent you to him for me. My faith is hanging on a thin thread right now. And if not for you, I'd be shaking my fist at God saying, why didn't you do anything to intervene? But he did. He sent you. And Barry is my brother. Let me tell you, he is my brother. Well, after Marshall's passing, I was going through the text messages and I saw the conversation that Marshall had with Ever. And I realized, wow, Ever really kept a relationship with Marshall. And I had one last thing to do, and it was to get rid of that wrecked motorcycle. And I called him up and I said, Ever, would you just take it? You can have it for parts. And he said, sure, I'll take it. And so he met me at the garage and he said, you know, I've been here with Marshall before at this garage. I said, no, I didn't know. And he said, yeah, my motorcycle's right there, right across from me. I didn't know that. Well, one day Ever called me and he said, I have a surprise for you. And he did a big unveiling reveal. And he formed Marshall Racing Project 33. He refurbished Marshall's motorcycle in his favorite color green, numbered it 33 for his birthday, March 3rd, and he races it for mental health awareness. An ordinary angel. And this is the rebirth of the dream. So you can see here the dream, the crash of the dream, and the rebirth of the dream. And I call it the rebirth of the rebirth because I don't believe that this was meant to be. I believe Marshall was supposed to ride with Ever in his gang. But when those things don't work out, then we get another opportunity. And I am so grateful for this. In closing, we see what we're looking for. If you want to see bullies and you want to see mean-spirited people, you're going to find them everywhere. If you want to see loving, kind, giving, inclusive people, you're going to find them too. Marshall saw what he was looking for. He couldn't trust. I can't trust. I can't trust. He wouldn't trust anybody. Marshall had ordinary angels. I only mentioned a couple of them. I challenge you to look for opportunities to extend compassion and kindness and to be somebody's ordinary angel. And I also challenge you to be open to one that stops off on your little path. I want to include by reading something that Marshall wrote. And I've published all of his writing, or most of his writing, in this book, because he said to me one time, you know what, Mom, I think I might be good at writing. Maybe one day I'll write a book. So after he passed, I found all of his writing, and I've included it in this book that tells the story of the Marshall Racing Project. But, you know, when we're thinking about our young people and we're wondering what are they dealing with, you know, they deal with things I never thought of. And so Marshall, at the age of 14, I remember him saying to me, Mom, are you sure Dad can't come take me from you? I talked to a girl who has to go to her dad every summer, even though she doesn't want to, and she's 14 too. Well, usually Marshall would give me a writing assignment and ask me to edit it. There was this one group of assignments that he said, don't read these. Just copy them, make a copy of them, but don't read them. And I wasn't about to read them because he'd know I'd read it, and I didn't want to break that trust. I didn't read this until after he was gone. But this kind of gives us a clue of what these kids face every day. Why do people call her that? Hey, look at the girl with the big stomach. Everyone says she has sex with anyone who dates her in the summer because she's always pregnant on the first day of school. Everyone called her a slut, even her friends. But why is she crying alone in the back of class in my health class? I started talking to her and getting to know her because I just felt I needed to. It's summer now, and we hang out every week, but I felt I needed to ask her about her baby. I found out that she was pregnant because she goes to her father, who made her have sex with his friend. I wondered why she was getting big again. These kids are dealing with things we can't even imagine. And I just think we need to all consider being willing to tell your story and being willing to get involved in somebody else's life. I have a video that I want you to watch about that, and then I want to bring up Christina Judge from the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation. Thank you.
This girl has kind of been lonely and sad and has been sitting in a corner. I went over there and said, what's wrong? And she said, this group of people keep on bullying me and calling me names and pushing me around, and I've just been tired of it, but I don't know what to do. There was a boy that always sat by himself. I didn't want to seem pushy or accuse him of anything, but then one day he walked up and I noticed cuts up and down his arm. I've personally been reached out to by one of my close friends. One of his close friends was actually like threatening to commit suicide. I made a decision to kind of talk to a hope advisor, but also give her some of my own words about it. After we talked, she felt a little better, so she finally went to the counselor, and then after that, she's really grown up to stand up for other people and stand up for herself. Then the next day, I said, your name's this, right? He's like, yeah. And I was like, I'm Riley. I was like, I really need some help with this, whatever subject we were learning. I was like, can I sit by you today? I really need to look at how you take notes because clearly I'm not taking them that well. And he said, yeah, of course. And then this went on. I started sitting with him more and more. It was the first time that had actually happened and that someone had reached out to me. But I'm in Hope Squad. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do. And I referred her to our intervention specialist, knowing that this was a trustworthy adult who could actually help, and I think that she's doing better.
As a high school principal, I had experienced young people taking their lives, and it really touched me And then in 1997, I was contacted by the Provo police to come down and identify the body of a 14-year-old who had taken his life in the public park next to my school. When I got done, walked to my car, and I literally threw up and sobbed. This was an amazing young man who came from an amazing family. And that's when I made a vow that I would do everything I could to help prevent suicide. My name is Dr. Gregory A. Hudnall. I am the founder of Hope Squad.
Hope Squad is a suicide prevention group where kids can talk to other kids if they're feeling sad.
It's formed to help students who are in crisis, like thinking, I don't think I should be alive, or something's going on and I don't know what to do.
Hope Squad is built around the concept of peer-to-peer. We went through the school and asked every student, if you were struggling, needed to talk to someone, list the names of 3 of your peers that you would feel comfortable going to. And the most amazing thing happened. The same 40 names rose to the top out of 2,100.
Each student nominates 3 people to be in Hope Squad. It's not something that principal gets to choose. Like, it's something that peers think, who can you talk to and who would fully understand?
People that are helpful and nice and very caring and love to give hugs.
Oh, it's definitely a wide variety of people, especially since they come from all grade levels, all extracurricular activities, basically all different avenues of teenagers.
When I heard about Hope Squad, I was excited. I've seen in my own daughter, Kennedy, she's always had a heart to help people. So to be able to be empowered with more information and to focus that and to use that to help kids.
It's all about, how to listen, bad secrets, safe secrets, standing up to bullying, prevention. And it's all about really, truly about being a friend to someone you see is hurting.
Hope Squad has helped me definitely know when somebody just needs a friend and they feel lonely. I just say, hey, how's your day going? You want to eat lunch with me?
They taught us to recognize when somebody is to the extreme level of suicidal thoughts, or even at just the smallest level of anxiety or stress. And I hadn't realized the amount of people that I saw on a day-to-day basis that really struggled with these things and were actually showing me that I'd never noticed.
I'm one counselor at 900 kids. I can't see it all. Teachers don't see it all. And sometimes they don't see it. But kids who recognize signs of depression or anxiety or sadness or loneliness, kids, they see everything.
There's a big stigma with kids hearing these kind of things. And I'm not sure why. Just talking about it empowers people.
It has to start early, and kids are resilient. Just because you say suicide doesn't mean they're going to commit suicide. It just means they're going to ask questions, and that opens up the line of communication to have the conversation. What is suicide? Why do people do suicide?
This issue is already in the minds of every teenager. It's already surrounding our campus, almost like an atmosphere. So why not talk about it? Why not bring awareness to it? And I think that by having something that shines light on the issues, that usually fixes the issues.
Schools that don't have Hope Squad, they need to get Hope Squad, because we need to change the culture, not only in schools, elementary, but we need to change the culture throughout America and throughout the world.
It's time to educate them, and it's time to talk about the issues with them. It is time to empower them.
Out of the mouth of babes, right? So I'm really thrilled to introduce to you a woman who has some answers, not only for the children's programs, but adult programs. She brings things into offices and different places of work. I am thrilled to bring to you Christina Judge with the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation.
One of the biggest myths around suicide is talking about it to somebody else plants the seed. Fortunately, that's not true at all.
How are we doing on time? Oh, we're in good shape. Yeah. I want to thank you all for having both of us here today. And Susan is one of the bravest people I've ever met. And to be able to honor her son's legacy in such a positive manner is an inspiration to all of us. This is Jordan Harris. Jordan Harris was a lot like Marshall. She was a pretty remarkable young person. She was class valedictorian at Richland High School in North Richland Hills. She was an all-round excellent scholar. She had a scholarship to the University of Michigan. And in her senior year, she started not to feel well. And she went to the doctor and she was diagnosed with depression. And her parents, Tom and Ellen Harris, were very concerned about her. So they had her take the semester off and she moved home in January. And in March, she took her life with very little warning. You talked to her parents and they said that now they were aware that there were signs, but they weren't aware of what those signs were. So you can only imagine her devastated friends and family came together at that point in 2012 when she died, and they wondered if there was more that they could have done to save her life. And they found, looking around Tarrant County in the contiguous rural counties, Parker, Johnson, that there were no entities that were providing boots on the ground suicide prevention training and education. So we formed our 501c3 nonprofit status in 2014, and pretty much as a grassroots effort. I think that there were some family and friends that threw money on the table, and that's just basically how it started. And here we are in 2021, several years later, and I'll tell you about our programs. The Hope Squad program is just what you saw, and you saw the kids talking. What is that program, and why is it different from the other suicide prevention programs that are in the schools right now? Well, what makes Hope Squad different is that it's peer-to-peer based, and that you know that if 7 out of 10 kids are going to tell somebody if they're suicidal, it's generally not an adult. So what Hope Squad does is it takes this peer-to-peer model, and if you've got 600 kids in a school, those 600 kids vote on the Hope Squad members, and they answer something like a Google poll. They can do it right on their phone. Who do you trust? Who's a good listener? Who would you go to if you were struggling? And it's really interesting because the fidelity of the model is so intact that if all the kids are voting, names, the same names rise to the top. It's not just smart kids, it's not just cheerleaders, it's not just athletes. The term, everybody knows what a clique is, all the cliques are represented, okay? So because all the kids are voting, it might be the kid that, you know, goes after class and smokes cigarettes in the bathroom. You know, cigarettes aren't good for you, but that kid is trusted. So when you get these Hope Squad kids, there's usually about 10 to 25 per school. They come together and they learn to listen, ask questions, and find help. And so what happens is there's a school counselor, and usually that school counselor takes over the advisor role, and these kids receive a monthly curriculum. And so there are also activities that engage the entire school. There's a Hope Week. There's parts of the curriculum that are taught to the entire school. This curriculum starts as young as 4th grade. 4th grade, our kids know about suicide in 4th grade. As Susan said, 1 out of 10 kids who dies by suicide in North Texas is under the age of 13. Tarrant County has the 2nd highest suicide rate, youth suicide rate, second to Collin County. I met with a funder not too long ago, and she looked at me and she said, 12-year-olds don't kill themselves. This takes us back to stigma. And so, you know, when I talk to people, there's so much stigma out there. I want to do something really quick. Who has lost a loved one or a colleague to suicide? Who feels comfortable? Okay. Who knows somebody or has a loved one that struggles with mental illness? So we have a lot of hands up in the room for both of those questions. Unite for Light is a train-the-trainer partnership. We use an evidence-based model called QPR. QPR is like CPR, but for suicide prevention. It stands for question, persuade, refer. Those are the 3 steps you need to be able to help somebody who's suicidal. We have trained close to 20,000 people since our inception. It's called a Gatekeeper Training, and it takes about an hour. A lot of people will ask me, how can I learn how to save a life in an hour? You'd be surprised. We offer this training for free. You can find our dates on our website. You can sit in on Zoom and you can learn QPR. For people that want to continue their journey in suicide prevention, there are other programs that take several days or a week. You can become certified as well in QPR. That's a day-long training. We also have another little arm of our mission, and that is depression research funding. You know, the family and friends of Jordan Harris truly believe that had she been on a medication that may have been more effective, she may not have taken her life. So what does that depression research funding look like? Well, our board votes on an unrestricted dollar amount every year, and we entertain proposals from local North Texas entities. Recent funding that we have provided has to do with JPS has done a predictive analytics algorithm in the Epic record system, so that if somebody comes into the hospital and they've been seen 3 times, this is just an example, 3 times for depression in the last month, it'll discreetly throw up a red flag to the caregiver. So that caregiver will know that that person may be at risk for suicide. The TCU UNT Health Science Center Medical School, we just gave them some funding for their med school students. They have a mental health program for their med school students. We know med school students are at risk for depression and suicide. And so this helps their med school students. So here's some statistics for you. We know that the CDC, around the time Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade died, released a report, and in 2018, it was over the past 20 years, the suicide rate has increased 30% in the United States, 55% in Tarrant County. It's a lot. Cook Children's Medical Center admitted a record number of children for suicide attempts in January, 40, in March, 43. So are we seeing an increase in suicide in our Hope Squad schools? We have close to 100 Hope Squad schools. We're not seeing an increase in suicide, but we are seeing an increase in suicide attempts. So what does that mean? That means that these students are getting the help that they need. They're being identified. Suicide attempts are not necessarily a good thing, but at least they're not completions. In Fort Worth participates every other year in the YRBS survey. 14.8% of Fort Worth students were surveyed, and they had 14.8% of those students that were surveyed said they seriously considered attempting suicide. 33.5% felt sad or hopeless. 12.6% planned how they would attempt. They had a plan. 11.1% attempted suicide, and 4% had to be treated by a doctor or nurse due to a suicide attempt. One thing that we do with our Hope Squad programs is we do track our data, and they're called suicide concern referrals. And the Hope Squad advisor will go into the national portal, because this is a national evidence-based program, and we pull our data out once a semester. Over the past 2 years, 1,200 suicidal students have been identified and referred for help in our Hope Squad schools. So we know the program is working because students are being identified and they're being referred for help. Next slide, please. Just kind of what I went over. We're running a little bit behind. So our community call to action, and I'm really excited because David Ziegler is here today, and he is a board member with the Grant Halliburton Foundation. And Grant Halliburton Foundation, we talked to them a couple of years ago and said, hey, we're doing Hope Squad. We get a lot of phone calls over there in the Dallas area. If y'all want to do Hope Squad, we'll teach you how to do it. And Grant Halliburton Foundation is doing Hope Squads. So yeah, we'll share our model. We just shared our model in East Texas. We're talking to Bridgeport schools, Cleburne. So yeah, it's starting to happen here in Texas. So we're really excited about that. And what we do with our model is a little bit different. In the state of Texas, suicide prevention is mandated in the schools, but it's unfunded. So we do provide financial aid to the schools that are looking to have their Hope Squad programs. So we're real proud of that. Everything we do is 100% donor funded. So I urge you to sign up for a training. Our trainings are free and they're online right now. Also, we do have a workplace suicide prevention called Beyond the Cube. As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk to another business when I get done here who is interested in having their employees trained in QPR. So exciting things. Are there any questions real quick, or are we out of time?
No, we have time.
Okay.
Questions?
How do you deal with social media? I have a,
Yeah.
social media is all
You know, I didn't deal with it when my kids were young, and now they're all adults, but I don't know. You know, I don't know the answer to that, but I think we need to start monitoring it. We need to come up with an answer, you know, that works for each family. But it is an issue, and you could start with just communicating with them and explaining them that graph that Marshall fought so hard. You know, I think these kids are just set up for unrealistic expectations, and all they see are the high points.
Well, I think it's like took your graph of when social media started and your graph of suicide, probably.
Yep. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Because, you know, I mean, I get a lot of calls from parents. I know that some parents, you know, they'll ask me, limit your kids' screen time. Some parents will cut off the internet at night. Imagine that. You know, and I know my children are older, they're moved out of the house, but there's things that you could put on their phones too, apparently. Do you have any of those apps on there?
The irony of that is that we looked at that and you were talking earlier about that. It was like this, why don't you trust me scenario? And then it was, that was seemed more hurtful than, so we could find a way where we can check. But we didn't put something on the phone because that felt, to them that felt like I haven't done anything to break your trust, so I don't trust.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I think turning off the internet at night is a very popular thing too. Yeah. Yeah. I know a lot of parents that do that with their kids.
We used
So-
to make our son move his computer and his phone downstairs
Mhm.
in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But we had it at night, and it also kept all night chatting or doing everything, and so we get to sleep. But it is an issue, and you know, to your comment, I remember with Preston, it was, look, let's talk about how we trust you. We trust, but we are going to verify.
Yeah.
And
That's kind of that.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm probably maybe just sometimes drop others. And yeah, so.
Just to your point, I think you said the magic word monitoring.
Mhm.
Because my 10-year-old was playing a Roblox game 2 weeks ago, and some other kid she's playing with, same age, says she thinks she's bisexual. So my 10-year-old comes and, Daddy, what is bisexual? Playing a game, and now the other's playing the whole game. So you have to stay on top of it. You really have to monitor it, so you don't get on the wrong track. I just wanted to support that. Yeah.
And social media does have its utility for our kids too. I think, you know, and going back and looking at our last semester Hope Squad data, 17% of the kids that were identified that needed help actually came in through social media. So these are the, you know, the Hope Squad kids that are going on there. And if they see a cry for help, you know, they're on it. And, you know, they let those kids know, I care about you, I'm listening. You know, I don't want you to die. I'm going to find you help. You have to trust me. So.
My child came right to me with a question. Whereas if you have some kind of fear that they cannot come to you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're around a little bit if you want to stay, but thank you so much. We appreciate it. Hopefully this housekeeping wind-up reminders, you know, please drop your evaluation forms, your CP forms, that kind of stuff. And you make sure and let us know if you're new and you haven't come before. Let us know your information. We'll make sure and invite you to get back onto this cycle of having inspired events like this morning. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, have a great week.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks, everybody on Zoom. Have a great day.